3. Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. This is your host, Curtis, with my co-host, Aaliyah, and we are here with Lachlan, who is from the band Carmeria, and we are going to be talking with him about a whole bunch of different things because he's apparently a behind-the-scenes guy with the band, so we've been told, and should be interesting for the next 30 or so minutes. So to start off, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Should be fun.
Cool. So over to Aaliyah for question number 1.
Well, the first question we always like to ask is, would you please be so kind as to give a brief summary of who you are and what you do in the realms of metal?
Cool. My name is Lachlan Blackwood. I'm from the Blue Mountains in Australia, which is the traditional lands of the Darug and Gungara people. I've been playing metal ever since I was a teenager. I started as a drummer in a progressive metal band called Excuria, and then I started playing just about everything at different points. And then about 4 years ago or so, found out that Carmeria was looking for a drummer. I put my hand up and they said yes. So now I play drums for them when we have gigs, but mostly I sort of do behind the scenes management kind of things with them.
Now, just curious, how did you get started playing drums, and how old were you?
I've been playing drums my whole life. I used to watch the Wiggles when I was a kid, and my favorite was the Blue Wiggle because he played the drums. Then as I sort of, before I was a teenager, probably when I was about 10, I started playing drums in church, and my parents ended up getting lessons and giving me my first drum kit, which was actually a really, really old piece of crap that was living in the basement under the church for many years, and I used to sneak in there and play it. And then one day it was in my garage on my birthday, so that was fun. Then I played it at high school, played in all my high school bands, toured overseas with my high school bands. I just kept doing it.
I have a follow-up to that. So you're also listed on Metal Archives as a guitarist. So are you more of a guitarist or a drummer then?
I probably enjoy playing the guitar more, but I'm a considerably better drummer than I am a guitarist.
Fair enough. I'll let Aaliyah go again.
Well, we could talk a little about your guitar work because are you currently playing guitar in another band?
So with Oberon, which doesn't gig very often, but when we do gig, we've got our lead guitarist Brett plays most of the guitars, and I sort of hop between rhythm guitar and keyboard depending on how much keyboard's in the song. If there's heaps of it, I'll stand behind the keyboard, and if there's not, I'll flail away on my guitar.
So you also play keyboards. So you do play a little bit of everything.
I play a little bit of everything. I'm quite good at the drums. That sounds arrogant. I'm a lot better at the drums than I am at anything else.
That's fine.
Yeah, I do play a little bit of everything.
Toot your own horn. But yeah, that's awesome. I've never been able to, I've always understood the interest in every instrument, but actually learning every instrument is, it's a skill in and of itself to be able to be directional like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to switch the podcast gears if that's okay here, Aaliyah.
Go ahead.
So just as a brief thing, I noticed that on your Oberon page, at least, your favorite album is Dark Passion played by Nightwish, which is also, I think, Aaliyah's favorite, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? No? One of your favorites?
No, but I love that album. It's a great album.
So let's talk about Nightwish for a few minutes, since you guys are both Nightwish fans, and I want to take the podcast completely off the rails. So what is your favorite era of Nightwish then, considering you're a symphonic metal guy?
Well, Dark Passion plays my favorite album.
Mm-hmm.
But Once is my second favorite album. So kind of that sort of crossover point is my favorite. So I like everywhere from Century Child to Imaginarium is, it's not really like favorite era because people sort of define the eras by the three singers.
That's how I do it.
But for me, it's like the tail end of Tarja and Net is my favorite bit.
I would agree with you, honestly. Like, there's just a different quality to the songwriting in that era. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I agree with you on that.
So now, just back to the Nightwish thing for a second. What do you think about their current vocalist in the rankings of vocalists of the three? Rather,
Floor Jansen, she's fantastic. I think she's been absolutely incredible for them. And what I've noticed is particularly in the live scene, I think she's really, really good. Like I remember when they came out to Australia after Dark Passion Play, Annette was really sick, I think, from memory. And I used to hear stories in the news and the media about her being sick all the time. And I don't know very much about vocals. I don't know if that's got to do with stress or with anything like that. But I think Flora has been particularly incredible in her ability to weather the touring schedule and to just like come out there every night and be so consistent. And everyone seems happier in the band.
Very true.
Just from an outsider's perspective, it seems that everyone's happier. And even if that means that the
And
music,
that's probably why the music's not so good.
well, yeah, I mean, even if the music isn't the kind of music that I fell in love with them for, like I'm really happy for them that they're feeling really great and they're feeling really happy and they're doing well.
Yep, for sure.
So, is there anything else you want to talk about Nightwish wise, Aaliyah, before we move on to a pertinent question? I thought there was going to be a fight here or something, or some sort of controversy, but nothing's going on yet. So,
sorry.
I can give you some controversy. When I first heard of Nightwish, I hated them. I absolutely hated them. Yeah, this is a funny story. So I was in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was into heavy metal, and my best friend was into the Phantom of the Opera musicals. And we thought, being, teenagers, we thought that we were like the most creative, inventive people ever because we wanted to do a heavy metal cover of Phantom of the Opera. We're like, absolutely no one's ever done this before. This is like the most genius thing anyone's ever thought of. And so we're on YouTube one day and we stumbled across Nightwish's cover of it. And we were so like put out, very grumpy that someone had beaten us to it.
How
so
dare they steal your idea?
Yeah, we spent probably about a week shit talking this band. Like, oh, they're so terrible. I mean, they obviously weren't, but just because we were so unhappy that they'd stolen our idea. And then, one day we were like, hey, let's listen to some of their original music and listen to how terrible that obviously is going to be. And I clicked on the live version of Planet Hell from End of an Era. And just as soon as that intro just started thundering with the crowd going, I was just like, wow, okay, I was wrong. This is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm embarrassed. So it only lasted a week.
That green monster jealousy will corrupt your ideas all the time.
That's
so
it.
Where else do we want to take this on Nightwish, Aaliyah? I'm not a Nightwish fan, and I'm trying to stir stuff up.
No, this is the thing. I think that a lot of Nightwish fans, well, I don't know, actually. I was going to say a lot of them agree on it, but they don't. So it just so happens that we have the same opinion. I guess you got unlucky in that situation.
Yeah, I always thought it was like the Tarja versus Annette versus Floor thing, and I just assumed.
Yeah, I mean, because that is an aspect of certain areas of the fandom, but people who really love the band love the songwriting, and it hasn't been quite so much like the Black Sabbath thing because the singer has nothing to do with the songwriting in Nightwish.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's what I always said. As long as Thomas is writing the songs, I'm happy with it.
Right. So it never changed. I mean, it does change the songwriting, who the vocalist is, but not in the way that somebody else is writing the lyrics or somebody else is writing the music, because Thomas writes all the music and all the lyrics. And it's always been the case. I think pretty much, except
Yeah,
maybe-
mostly. I think some of the others contribute sometimes a little bit, but it does
Yeah.
seem to be mostly him, and I think that's how they've. I mean, not that they've stayed especially consistent if you compare like Angels Fall First with Human Nature, but
No.
like the development arc of the songwriting is a consistent arc. You can see where the influences come from and where they're going, and then when you look at his solo work, you can kind of slot that into the Nightwish chronology, and his development as a composer and a lyricist is still
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's all connected to the same personality as well, which helps it maintain like a more steady love from the fans, because so much of a fan's connection to a band has to do with that personal connection.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So I want to talk about a topic, because since both of you guys are in symphonic metal bands, I think this is probably a good topic to be talking about, not just the back end stuff like we planned. And sorry for disappointing you, Lachlan, for going off topic here. But
That's okay.
we should talk about image briefly here, just like the whole image thing, because like symphonic metal has a specific image that you're kind of expected to maintain, I think. So can you kind of talk about, because you said you hated Nightwish at first, I mean, you hated symphonic metal at first. How did you kind of get into, getting into like the imagery and stuff of it? Because I mean, like I noticed from your promo pictures, I mean, you dress the part when you're doing it, right? So.
Yeah, I've always been really interested in Gothicism.
Sure.
I remember in year 11 when we studied Gothic literature. That's late high school. I don't know what the equivalent is over there, but yeah, we studied Gothic literature, and we looked at Frankenstein and Dracula and sort of the whole 19th century sort of thing. We looked at the Romantic poets. Yeah, and I've always been really drawn to that style and that imagery. And I mean, symphonic metal isn't exclusively that, but there's a big 19th century romantic aspect to symphonic metal in the dress and in the approach. And yeah, I always found that appealing, and that sort of lined up with when I got into symphonic metal and people were starting to dress like that in the music videos and the photo shoots and everything, and it seemed to just line up. It's hard though in Australia because it's bloody hot.
Yeah, I was gonna say anyways. Aaliyah, what's your take on this, since you're the other person in a symphonic metal band?
What is the question exactly?
Well, just like the image, like how did you get into the imagery and stuff like that? More like, because like, I mean, there's like the sound, but I mean, there's also like the specific, there's like an image that goes with symphonic as well. You know what I mean?
There is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm into symphonic metal because of the image, though.
No, I'm not saying, but
well,
the image, though. Because I'm sure there's symphonic metal bands that do not dress the part, but I don't know what they are personally.
well, for example, our band, we're trying more for a timeless look versus a period look.
Fair.
But yes, I mean, I think I was also always attracted to Gothic aesthetic and literature. Same thing, Frankenstein, Dracula, Edgar Allan Poe, that stuff was always interesting to me. I don't know where it started or when it started. It's just kind of like when I first discovered it, I loved it. So
Fair.
To me, it's also always been, I was a part of like the Gothic Beauty message boards back in the day. Gothic Beauty was a Gothic fashion magazine, but they also had like music reviews in the back. And I discovered a lot of bands that way. And the first time I heard Evanescence, the imagery, the music, it all connected with me. Like it's all this, I don't know how it started.
Fair. So
Am I
let's get back.
answering the question? I'm meandering. Sorry.
Well, whatever. I mean, meandering is fine. I mean, we all meander. So Is there anything else we want to cover with symphonic metal image, Aaliyah, before we go on to another question?
How important do you think the image is to representing yourself as a symphonic metal band?
Yeah, the image thing is tough because there's been such a rise in symphonic metal bands that have the female singer in a corset kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that just that became the look. And which, like when that started, fine, that's just they're pulling from that subculture. But then it kind of became kind of objectifying and kind of like on the one hand kind of objectifying and on the other hand just kind of bland. So when you're starting a new symphonic metal band, there's a lot of pressure to be like, right, I've got to find a soprano and whacker in a corset and then I'll be a legit band. But also that's not the sound. You can come to symphonic metal, and I came to symphonic metal like actually in much the same way that Thomas did. If you look at Nightwish's influences, it's kind of the heavy metal of his youth mixed with the film music of his youth. So that's what like late 80s, early 90s kind of thing. And I was the same. I always wanted to mix the heavy metal of my youth, which was like the 2000s, with film music. So we're both drawing from Hans Zimmer. He's drawing from sort of earlier Hans Zimmer, like Gladiator, Lion King, and I'm drawing from later Hans Zimmer, like Inception and Batman.
Sure.
But you can come from you can be a fan of that sort of music without any sort of gothic imagery at all. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, to adopt that look. But like, I'd be really keen to see symphonic metal bands coming out with different looks based on something completely else. Like they've got a similar sound, they're coming from a similar place, film music, classical music, mixed with metal. But yeah, like doing something more interesting with the way they look. And obviously, I'm in Carmeria, and that's as basic as you get with the whole let's dress like goth things. So
but it
maybe
works with the sound. I feel like with Carmeria, the sound is also a bit gothic. It's got that darkness to it.
Yeah, and we're big fans of him as well. So that level of sort of goth rock is coming from there. So with Carmeria, like we're legitimately drawing from gothicism because that's what we want to do. And when you've got Jordan standing there at the front in his big gothic coat, it's hard to look at this and go, let's do something else, because it's just working so well. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure to conform to that image, and I'd be keen to see people doing something else, drawing from something else.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to do that with Oberon, but we don't really know what to draw from.
That's the thing.
Answer.
Yeah, like when we were looking for our look, we're trying to figure out what our look is. It's like none of us in the band are gothic, really.
Yeah.
I mean, even me, like, look, I'm in a band shirt and a leather jacket. I don't dress goth. I don't do goth makeup. I don't know. I mean, I listen to some goth music, and so it's like, well, what hashtags do I put in to look for inspiration? I don't even know. So.
Yeah, well, we've got, so Oberon's singer, Liz, she's got the long red hair, and she looks very Irish. So she's got Irish ancestry. And then our drummer was actually born in Ireland, and our bass player, James, has red hair and Irish ancestry. So we're like, oh, maybe we should dress like we're a Celtic metal band, because we all kind of look like that anyway. But then we don't want to be mistaken for a folk metal band.
Right.
Because we're very much not a folk metal band. And it's a question of trying to match the music to the image. So like we've talked about again, well, maybe we should just be a folk metal band. We all look like we come from rural Ireland. But like that's not what we want to play. So finding
no, I don't think that's how it should work either.
Finding that balance between what you look like as people and how you naturally dress and present yourself and the sounds that you want to make.
Right.
It's a hard balance to find. I think that's why it's so tempting to just conform to what's already there.
Right. You'd rather focus on just making the music and not have to think so much about what you're wearing, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So I want to go off topic if we can, Aaliyah, because we only got like,
We can change topics, yeah.
since we only got like another 15 minutes, let's talk about a topic that is near and dear to our hearts, which is budgeting. Well, not dear to our hearts, but you know what I mean. We wanted to talk to you about budgeting since you said you handle the band's budget. So kind of a broad question, but can you kind of go over some budgeting tips for bands?
The biggest tip that I have is have a budget. The number of bands that I've seen that just don't budget for anything. They just pour money into something and then continue pouring money into it, and it just blows out and it blows out. So having a budget is half the battle already. And we found the best way to do that is not everyone in Carmeria contributes financially to the band's budget. For example, only Jerry and Jordan are owners of the band. The rest of us are like contractors, basically. Like, we're band members, but we don't own the company. So not all of us contribute financially, but those who do just have a set amount that they give every week, and that's the band's budget for the year. So if we're producing a record or playing a tour or making a music video, it comes out of that budget. And that way we're not sort of like hitting a point where we're like, okay, right, we've got to dump $5,000 into this thing. Everyone dig through your wallets and pull it out of your savings account, whatever. And if we can't afford to do it, then we just do it cheaper. Or, I mean, occasionally the owners, Jerry and Jordan, will front a bit of extra money, which is their prerogative. It's their band. But yeah, everything comes out of either the yearly budget that we have this much money a year, or if we want to do a bigger project, same thing, just have a budget, plan for it in advance, know how much it's going to cost. If you need to put in extra for however many weeks leading up to that, and you can afford to do that, great. And that way you won't blow out, because we had our first record and we weren't budgeting with our first record, and the costs just exploded. Like, we ended up paying, I don't actually know how much we ended up paying, but it was at least twice as much as we should have. Because costs just kept going up, and the guys in the band, we didn't have money to pay for it, and we were very lucky that the owners had a large savings account and were happy to front it. Well, I think one of them fronted it themselves and the other agreed to pay them back over the course of the next year or something like that. But it ended up being quite messy, and it's the sort of thing that can break bands up. And I think we were very lucky that it didn't. And I came in sort of halfway through that process, but after that sort of ended, I sort of sat down and we're like, all right, we need to have a budget. We need to stick to our budget. And it's been really smooth ever since. It's been like, money used to be quite a big issue, and now it's nothing. So this comes back to my biggest advice is have a budget, stick to a budget. It's not that complicated. Like, money freaks people out. The idea of having a budget freaks people out, but it's actually not that complicated. Put an amount aside a week, stick to that amount, find a cheaper way of doing something if it's too expensive.
Cool.
Now, I have a question, because you have 6 music videos.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Music videos can be quite expensive to produce, and a lot of bands don't know how much should be spent on a music video, or what's a reasonable amount to spend on a music video. Can you speak a bit to that, and how you guys manage to budget for so many music videos?
Yeah. You're going to find there's a lot of disagreement in Carmeria about how much money should be spent on music videos.
Not to be talking a sore point. What are your
that's all right. I don't think you should really be spending any money on a music video. I think you should
Oh,
grab your phone and do it yourself.
have you done any
Uh,
of yours yourself?
yeah, so if you were to go on Oberon's YouTube channel, we've put up a lot of covers,
Oh,
and
mhm.
they are all just shot with a phone or with a home camera by ourselves in my home studio. Not this home studio, is in my last house, but and they don't look bad. They don't look like high budget and amazing, but they don't really need to. Obviously, it's really cool when they do. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of awesome high budget music videos. They look fantastic. But in order to just have that visual accompaniment to your song, because songs kind of get lost without visual accompaniment.
Right.
In order to just have something visual to go with your song, just shoot it on your phone, shoot in your studio, shoot something simple. We did lyric videos for a couple of our originals. We just like went out to a cool location with our phones and shot pictures and put them together. And I mean, like, I understand that's not why people join rock bands. They have these ideas of doing these big glamorous video shoots, and that's what they want, and that's fine. But the reality is it is so expensive. And the only reason that Carmeria did so many is because it was important to them to have that experience. So they said, yeah, we're going to dump thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into doing this out of our own money because we want to. And that's sort of what I said to them, was like, this isn't a sensible business investment. This is going to be a really cool video, but it's not going to do any more for our band as a business than something simpler that we shot on our phone.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really important to them to have that experience. And there's nothing wrong with spending a lot of money on something as long as you know why you're spending money on it. So if you're sitting there to yourself going, I've got to do this really high budget music video, we're going to go to 6 different locations and get a crane and hire a makeup artist and do all these things because we have to do it for our band. Well, you don't have to do it for your band. If you want to do it because you want to do it, great, your money, go for it, do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you. But if you're sitting there thinking, like, I have to do this for my business, you don't have to do it for your business. And to that point, we actually just shot another music video a couple of weeks ago for a single that is coming out imminently next week, I think. The video is coming out, and we shot that for nothing.
Not, because we're supposed to be helping you guys with that. Jez hasn't given us the MP3. Really?
Oh, hasn't he?
No.
I don't know. That's probably a question for Jerry then.
But about the video.
But anyway, about the video, whenever that's coming out.
Whenever it's coming out, even if it's not next week.
I hope it's not.
It might not be next week. I might just be completely wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, anyway, the point being, the video, we shot it for nothing. We just shot it in Jerry's backyard and in the street outside his house with just a friend who had a camera. And looking through the rough cut of it, yeah, it doesn't look as dramatic and high budget as some of the ones that we shot in the prop studio and everything like that. But it still looks good. It still suits the song. It still works. It's still going to be a really cool video. And I think they actually really enjoyed the experience of not then having to send a $2,000 or $3,000 bill off to video producer after that.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes left, guys. Just so you guys know, we've been all yakking for a long time now. But I know probably got something, but I have something I just want to quickly ask you about, just in regards to money and budgeting and that type of stuff. Do you guys? I know this is common in Australia, so I know that a lot of the sites will charge for premieres and stuff like that. Do you guys normally pay for premieres out in Australia or no?
Yes,
you do. Is it worth it for you guys? I honestly don't know, because over here they don't charge most of the time.
Well, again, you'll probably get different answers from different members of the band. I don't think it's worth it.
You do? Okay.
Half of these magazines that premiere our videos, I've never heard of until they're premiering our videos. And then, they premiere our videos, so I like them on Facebook, and then every day they're premiering someone else's video that that they've got, that they've got to pay them to do it. And I'm just like, I don't read these magazines. I don't get my news from these magazines outside of the fact that they premiered my video. So I don't know, but I mean, other people might. I'm not a big kind of online social media person. So that might just be a me thing. And I'm always kind of careful with that when I'm like, oh, this isn't worth it, because it's occasionally, I mean, probably more than occasionally, it's just a me thing. Yeah. But yeah, I've always thought that the more you can do yourself, the better.
Sure.
And if you can premiere your own video and run your own Facebook ad campaign or anything like that, it's better than dumping a few $100s into someone else to launch it on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a couple $100, you might as well put it in YouTube ads.
I mean, that's my theory. But we're all just kind of making it up as we go along, really. In
Right.
bands who don't.
And what
have
do I
any
know?
idea
I'm just saying that, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. So
until you get to the point where you're hiring professionals to help you, you're really just making it up as you go along. And I've found the more you can do yourself, the better. Oberon did absolutely everything themselves. We're still sitting on a higher Facebook like count than Carmeria after not having done anything for half a decade. I don't know how much Facebook likes mean anymore, but they felt pretty good at the time. But I mean, that's my wife was really good at that stuff, who was doing it. I was just sort of doing the mixing and the producing and letting her run the social media thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Sorry. What?
I was just gonna. I know we're running out of time, and I really want to ask about the pre-order campaign that Carmeria ran. I know that you were the mind behind that. So can you tell us a little bit about your strategy and really briefly what you think are the ingredients to a successful pre-order campaign?
Well, one successful ingredient is don't do it in the middle of a global pandemic. I mean, the number of angry emails I got from customers being like, "Where's my order?" And I just be like, "I'm really sorry. COVID has buggered everything up."
Right.
The CDs were delayed for a month. The T-shirts were delayed for a couple of weeks. International shipping took, I think, 3 months in one case. And half of that was it had already gotten to the country that it was going to and was just sitting there in customs.
Yep.
Everything just slowed down. I felt really sorry for all these people, but at the same time, they were emailing me every week going, "Where is it?" I just had to like, I don't know. I wish I could tell you. So
before the campaign ended, setting it up.
Yeah, we did most of that ourselves. We ran. We posted on Facebook and Instagram. I think we boosted posts or we ran ads or something like that. But the key for us was just have some really cool items that people want. And we had this really great hoodie in our like ultimate bundle that was over $100. And we had so many people buying that just so they could get the hoodie. And like we people message, "Can I just get the hoodie? I don't really want the shirt or the bag." And we're like, "Well, no, this is the package that we've put together."
Right.
But pre-order campaigns are a great way to produce some really cool stuff, because it means that you don't have to order your merchandise before the orders come in from your customers. So you're not having to outlay heaps and heaps of money, because you only have to order exactly what it is that you need to ship out to your customers. So that's what we found with it, is that we were able to do products that we wouldn't otherwise have been able to do because we ran a pre-order campaign. And people responded really well to it. It's kind of like pre-saving on Spotify, I guess. Get hyped about it, people get excited. And we were really lucky with how well people responded to that.
Did you when you started the campaign, did you already have like a teaser out for the album or a song out or anything?
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 singles out, 2 or 3 music videos. So yeah, there was already a bit of buzz surrounding the album, and I think people were waiting for us to drop some sort of announcement like that. It had been actually going on for a few years because the mixing of the record got delayed due to the Black Summer bushfires that we had.
Yes.
That got delayed like 6 months or something because I had my studio packed up in my car, ready to evacuate at a moment's notice, and I think Tim was the same down in Wollongong. He had his studio packed up, ready to go. So we all just took a big break for 6 months from doing that after we'd already put out a couple of the music videos.
Gotcha. That's a good
So
tip.
yeah, there was a lot of buzz, and I think people were just really excited when we finally said, "Hey, this is good to go."
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. So I think we need to wrap it up.
We need to wrap her up right now. So, Lachlan, do you have any final words that you would like to say before we end off the podcast?
Just, be sensible with your money. I find myself saying that a lot to musicians. Be sensible with your money, because you want to love what you do, and you don't want to start hating what you do because you've sunk your life savings into it and you can't afford to live. Playing music is a lot of fun. Making merch is a lot of fun. Making records, it's all great. It's a lot of fun, and if you can do it sensibly, then you'll be able to do it for longer, and you'll just have a much better time doing it.
Words of wisdom. So to wrap things up, I will say, everyone, until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.